as writer-director, really, is the key time. But also that, Michael Bond's stories are timeless. I think they're as relevant today as they were when they were first written in the 50s. The sort of themes of inclusion, of kindness of strangers, of being yourself are as relevant today. They're timeless. But I suppose a big part about why today as opposed to 10, 15 years ago is the technology. Because to have a digital character at the who you feel for, who makes you laugh, and who can do all that Paddington does, would not have been possible really 10, 15 years ago. The technology is such that you can make a digital character, that you can feel the way that we feel about Paddington. I don't think Michael's that aware of digital technology, other than, but I think that what happened was, he met myself and Rosie Allison, who works with me, and he met Paul, and together we made him feel comfortable. And he was a great partner through the process. I mean, he's very much allowed us to make the film that we wanted to make. But there was one scene in the film that he was very keen on. We showed him various drafts of the script, and he was always complimentary. But there was one scene that we'd cut out that he wanted in, which was the scene in the tea room, where Mr. Brown and Paddington are sitting alone, where Mr. Brown mispronounces Paddington's name. And that was a scene that he wanted, and we went, Paul actually said, yep, we should put it in. And Michael was so right, because it's one of our favourite scenes.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favourite, and I think he was really good on the tone, because we were sort of trying to find a longer, bigger story than there are in the books, which are, there are moments of sort of narrative continuity, but mostly they're short stories, and they're great. We took bits from all over the place, but that was, we had to sort of find some new narrative elements to kind of tell a movie-sized story, and he was brilliant at just reading the script and sort of saying where he felt things didn't quite fit into the Paddington universe, because we've worked on this a long time. Like, you've done almost 10 years, and I've done over 5.
Sounds like prison, doesn't it?
Michael's done 55 years of solitary. So he knows it more than anyone, and it's so close to his heart that we just didn't want to do it if he wasn't going to be on board and he wasn't going to be happy. And there was a great, we finally showed him the finished, he'd seen scenes as we developed and lots of drafts of the script, and we showed him the screen. I was too nervous to go to it in case he didn't like it. Rosie, our executive producer, phoned me to tell me he'd really loved it, and I was just going, oh, as I walked around the street, and people were sort of staring at me, and I realized, so I've been nervous about this for 5 years, and it was a great joy that he's so on board with it. A huge pleasure.
This was awesome to do. I had the best time, and I read the reason. My kids have now read the books, but I grew up with Paddington Bear, so reading the books and wanting my own little Paddington Bear. So finally, I got one.
You got to do terrible things.
Yeah. Was I camping it up, Paul?
I think it was a brutally gritty, realistic portrait of a demented bear stuff. So, we spent a lot of time. We spent time,
working on the sort of. I'd say taxi driver and so,
Exactly. That's what we worked
That's
on.
the research.
Yeah, there was some research. There was like that hour.
But I did learn how to throw knives, which they subsequently cut out of the film. Right?
Yeah, right.
I just remember David going, "It's a children's movie."
Yeah, no, quite right.
I throw one knife now.
Yeah, but
I'm saving my knife throwing technique for
that's
another
this
film.
movie you've got lined up. I'd love to see that.
No, for real life.
Yeah.
For kids.
Dear. She was looking at me when she said that.
Just in case you're out of line.
Well, it was good because they were on the set. Initially, they were like, "Oh no, please don't be the one that wants to hurt the bear." But now they've kind of that they understand the behind the scenes. And strangely enough now, my 6-year-old is really loves the villain character, which kind of worries me. But she's also like, oh, you know, I love the blonde hair. That's her main obsession. But it was really great because I got to watch the film with my mum, who's 74, and my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old. And to see that, and all of them were laughing at the same things. And that's amazing, you know. So I just love that I've made a film that, you know, my family can enjoy.
You know, I think that's true for all of us. I mean, for me, that my mum and my 6-year-old can enjoy is a real pleasure, and I think that's a real testament to what Paul has done, because he was so. I mean, one of the reasons why people say, well, why did you hire Paul? Well, because not only is he great for
I love that regular question. No, I've seen the film. Why did you hire that guy? Just to,
and there were various reasons.
It's mostly because I had this.
One, because he looks a little like Paddington. But also, you know, he's one of the top comedy directors, well, top directors in the UK. Television. He worked on a TV show called The Mighty Boosh, which is wonderfully subversive. And one of the things when we first met was that Paul talked about wanting to make humour, to imbue it with humour that would appeal across generations. And I think he's really done that. It made it a film. What I love about it is it has a big beating heart, but it's really a moving film. And you know, its thematics, its themes are sort of hit quite gently, but are very much there. But really, it's something that parents can take their children, that teenagers, that children of all ages and adults of all ages can enjoy. And I think that's really because of him.
Yeah, well, I was lucky because they had a pretty strong vision for it, didn't you?
Yeah.
When I came in, and they created me.
Out of clay, you were just. Well, we looked at lots of things and lots of references that we liked and found some things because we wanted. I suppose what we wanted was a villain who could still feel part of the family. You know, it's not a kind of. She's not. I mean, she's obviously she's bad, but she's. There's a lot of fun there to be had with it, and I think what's so great about Nicole is I feel, maybe you're just brilliant at acting, but it feels on the screen that you're genuinely having fun doing it, and you know it's a kind of gleeful performance, and you know you're enjoying kind of throwing a knife across the room, or you're enjoying kind of humming to the little monkey in the box, and there's such joy.
Or hanging Matt upside down.
Yeah, and also we did so many terrible things to Nicole. Like day one, she was hanging upside down.
She'd just gotten off a plane, and then she was hanging 30 feet.
Yeah.
They did. They put me upside down on these wires.
Yeah.
I sent a photo to my family in Australia. They were like, "What are you doing?" Going to the circus.
Yeah. And the last thing we did was
told them Sally had tested it.
Yes, I was on it. Yeah, just fun.
Yeah,
just the weekend. Just swing it upside down, my own time.
You've had one installed in your house, haven't you?
Yeah,
Strange.
just a
Trapeze.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. It's the way I get upstairs and down.
But it was just fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and they always say if you have a great time making a movie, the movie's not going to be as good. But this movie's good, and we had a really good time. So that refutes that, right?
I hope so. Oh, well, I mean, it was just a joy. I mean, do you mean the casting process itself, as in choosing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Well, I mean, it was a sort of mixture of people. I knew Sally, I didn't know Nicole, so you hope for the best, and Sally, I hoped I might be able to kind of talk round because she's a friend, and I'd stop giving her Christmas presents if she didn't do it. Nicole, I never thought in a million years would say yes. I loved her from, for so long, and I knew how funny she was, but not all of your roles are funny, and I wasn't sure whether you'd want to do a kids film or a kids comedy, and we sent the script much more in hope than expectation, but within luckily you grew up with Paddington, and you were the quickest, easiest person to cast. So I did about 8 hours. It was amazing. It was a real joy, and one of the pleasures is being able to work with people you know, or people you've worked with in sort of small comedy shows, you know, in sort of fringe venues much smaller than this room, and other people you've admired from the great movies that you've loved over your life, and what a treat, and you know, I just feel very lucky, and that was sort of the main thing, and that's where I have to pay tribute to David, because when you said about working with, you know, a lot of people ask you why you would possibly work with me, and I think what's so lucky about David is that he takes a chance on people, and there's a lot of, you know, clearly his track record speaks for itself, it's extraordinary, but what's so wonderful is that he's not intimidated by working with people with no experience, and you know, he's prepared to take a punt, and you see that in the Potter films and all of the people he's worked with, and it's just a great blessing that he sort of gives you the mechanism in which to make exactly the film that we wanted to make. It's been a joy. Oh, well, that was a tricky, I mean, he wasn't our initial choice. We started working with Colin Firth, who's brilliant and one of my, you know, acting heroes and comedy heroes.
And we had an icon playing an icon.
Yeah, and we were super excited about it, and you know, really sort of twisted his arm to sort of try and get him involved in the project. But he was always almost from sort of day one. He was sort of, I'm not sure my voice is going to turn out to be right, but he sort of worked with it, and we worked with him a lot. We rehearsed with him a bit, and he's terrific. But as the animation emerged, you just didn't believe his voice coming out of this small cub. It was a little too bassy and a little too resonant, and we tried doing some sort of digital things to kind of make it feel a little lighter, but it just sort of sounded Smurfy so quickly.
What's that?
Yeah, and we just wanted to kind of, and so it just didn't feel right, and so we sort of sat down, and it was all, you know, I'm so glad he wasn't a young actor getting their big break, or would have felt terrible. But you go, well, you're off to make, you know, the next Matthew Vaughan film, you'll be fine. You know.
But actually, to give Colin credit, he, as Paul says, he was there before we were.
Yeah.
He, you know, it was sort of a collective. It was a mutual decision. It wasn't, you know, you're fine. It was, you know, we sat there and we said, you know, this isn't working. This is not right. And as Paul said, you put that voice, you begin to animate. And when that voice comes out of an animator, it just didn't feel right. But it was a brave decision of Paul's, again, because you have to start animating again.
Yeah, it was so much of the animation comes from the performance. I mean, you know, not just the speed of the performance, but the spirit of it as well, and you know, the looks and the little expressions. And if they don't sit with what's being said, it's just, you know, we tried to make it work a couple of times, and every single time just like, no, we need to start again. But then when we heard Ben, and you know, from like the first sentence, it was like, oh, that, you know, and it was, so it was difficult, but it was easy at the same time, because if it's not working, it's not working, and none of us wanted to, you know, just to have a big movie star in the film. We wanted to make the film as good as we could, more than anything. So it just wasn't.
Well, it was working with Hugh was fantastic fun, and we very lucky that we had rehearsal time before filming, and I think that was key and so important to sort of establish make those relationships believable, and improvise around the script, and so they're true and they're funny, and they're relationships you recognise. And Hugh just makes me laugh. He's very funny, and I loved working with him, and the chemistry. I mean, you never quite know how it's going to work, so it was just a delight, really, and I loved that rehearsal period. It was almost like working in theatre. Marked out the house, tape on the floor, and so it was blocking key scenes, and and you're just thinking, it was sort of thinking about where they came from and the background, and it just adds a richness and a detail. So I loved the cast, and it was, and then working with Julie Walters is just a huge icon, mine, a hero. Just one of the reasons why I wanted to be in this business. And working with Paddington, although he was quite difficult, didn't turn up a lot, had a huge trainer, that was an issue. Yeah. It was a sticking point,
yes.
not just the pork.
Which is the marmalade.
Yeah.
You know, he ate most people's lunch a lot of the time.
All the time. Yeah, it wasn't just marmalade sandwiches. That's
Refused to come out of his trailer.
I know, that was really tough. Made you act against a tennis ball, which I thought was really selfish. When you don't need me for this shot.
He didn't want me there.
No.
He just wanted a ball.
Just give me a
The
camera
mark.
and I'll sort it out later.
But it's working with something that, I mean, as an actor, you sort of you use your imagination all the time, and we're in the world of make-believe, so it's as good as, that's what's exciting, really. I mean, working with theatre, you have walls that aren't there, and sets that aren't there, and so that's part of the magic, and I really loved it, and you see the bear there. You have to see the bear. The bear was there, and but we got to work with like Gus Brown and
we had two actors, or three actors helping us. We had a short performer, Lauren, who's 3'6", is the size of Paddington, and so she was really useful. And then we had a brilliant actor called Gus Brown, who was great at doing some of the dialogue. And we had this amazing physical theatre comedian called Javier Marzan, who, you know, when you have sort of interact, like the tea room scene or something, where the kind of physical timing of what's happening is quite important. That was a great one, and he was just great to improvise, like climbing up the stairs, was an idea he had on the day, and we tried to keep it fresh, really, didn't we? Like, we didn't sort of get too stuck in too many ruts, because we sort of tried to keep changing things a little bit and trying different things on the day.
Because he's got to be real. I mean, it's something that the protagonist isn't there, and it's the key role. So it's easy if something isn't there to almost forget. You know, it's that's
this is his chair. He was supposed to be here today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, what is that?
They won't let him in through immigration. He's already been established as non-legal migrant. He is not welcome.
Is he in LA?
He's I mean, he's on a plane back to London. He's been turned around.
I better go and pick him up.
Yeah. I think those had to be meticulously planned because there's no actor there, and so we did try to kind of, as much as we could with a human actor. We had this brilliant physical comedian I mentioned, Javier Marzan, and another guy called Cal McChrystal, he's a sort of physical comedy director, and so we workshopped a lot of them as much as we could in a kind of rehearsal room to try and. It's a quicker way of working, and we did a lot with previs where the animators would sort of very quickly and very roughly mark things out. And obviously you spent a long time writing the script, but it's an odd process that something like the bathtub sequence, then you film for a fortnight, you know, and you go, well, here's a shot of a sink, here's a shot of a toilet, oh, the lid falls down, you know, and they're kind of really very precise things, and then you spend...
Devoid of any humour.
Yeah, and you look at the 2-minute sequence at the end, and we'd be sitting in the edit going, yes, I think that works, with no laughter and no anything, but just trying to play in your head and go, is this roughly the right amount of time to kind of, you know, and sort of do those things, and then animated for months with hundreds. I mean, each of those shots is 400 or 500 versions to get the right, because the difference between, you know, and getting a laugh and kind of doing it badly is so infinitesimally small, you know, like comedy's timing, and you go, well, if it's a tenth of a second slow or fast, it stops being funny, and you know, so.
Which is again one of the, you know, that speaks so much to both what Framestore visual effects company did, because their flexibility and willingness to keep pushing these things, and also Paul's sort of relentless pursuit of, and knowledge of what makes something work, and also being willing to go on a journey of discovery, because comedy, it's not something, my sense, because again, you know so much more, it's not something, yes, this is fun, this is going to be funny. this is going to be funny, but then it's all the little details that make it so. And with visual effects, having the space with which you can discover, because visual effects is so prescriptive often. It's got to be like this, and you have only so many iterations within which to get it like that. You're telling them what you'll be, but with comedy, you're sort of shifting. It's a little bit like it's a dance. You're moving over here, and you're moving, and a character does this, and all of a sudden you can see, actually, if he did that, but did that, it would be funnier. And that process of discovery that Paul went on, and the animators went on, was amazing to see it getting better and better and better, and Paul discovering and allowing others to discover what was funny. It was an amazing thing to behold.
Yeah, and it's great. It's a lovely way to work. I mean, it's painstaking, but it was great. You know, they're some of the best in the world, and also it's difficult because you sort of go, I think that's funny, but then you have to sort of hold your nerve because we did a couple of test screenings, but really not until right at the end because there just wasn't a bear. And you go, well, until, you know, and if your bear suddenly goes from looking like a bear to suddenly looking like a kind of wireframe, it takes some of the magic away. I mean, you can sort of follow the story, but you're not laughing, you kind of keep looking like different things. And so really we just had to sort of hold our nerve and hope for the best and, trust that you laughed in March and hopefully it's still funny in November, but you don't know.
That's the scariest part, I think, of the whole process, is that holding your nerve, and at the same time discovering new things along the way. Is because this will be funny, but it's a blob.
Yeah.
And people aren't laughing at the blob, but you know they will laugh when the blob actually moves.
Yeah.
It's a weird process.
Yeah. I have one.
Go on.
I think mine is the bands who we haven't talked about. I love very much this amazing calypso music we have, which is there was a wave of West Indian immigration to the UK, specifically Notting Hill in London, which is where Michael Bond was writing the books and where the film's set in the 1950s when he was writing them. And there's this extraordinary music using Caribbean influences, Trinidadian influences, and all about the experience of being migrants. And one of the great things we've got to do on the film was assemble this extraordinary band of ancient calypso performers, some of them in their 70s and 80s, and getting to work with those brilliant people and bring their wonderful music, hopefully to a wider audience, was a real treat. So it meant a lot to me personally, as well as about the individuals concerned, as well as the moment in the story of feeling like London is a multicultural city that can welcome lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds. Beat that.
Swine. Couldn't you have waited?
I was like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to fill the silence.
Master that.
It's hard to really, for me, it's hard to single out one particular moment, because what I love about the film is that it really is that's what you describe as what the film is at its very heart. It's about the kindness of two strangers, and it's about inclusion. But I think the moment when Mrs. Brown says, when Paddington is embraced into the family, really is for me just my eyes well up every time I see it.
I think there are so many moments, magical moments, and it did feel special because working with friends who you admire and love, and it's kind of what you want for every film. You feel that you can go anywhere. You can you trust the people you're working with, and you have a code and a language, and you understand how they think. So it felt it's sort of so rich, the film, and so creative. But I loved working there. I mean, on the bike. I love that, working with you. That was just something so outside. It just got this lovely little sort of piece that before the actual story, you know, it's just a really nice flashback scene, and that was great fun to do. And see Hugh with the sideburns, just loving it and really rocking it as well. It was great, great touch. So that was a lovely moment for me. Also the snow, it was lovely, just playing in the snow. It was kind of just transforming the street. And then there was a line where the snow stopped, and then grey London.
Grey, rainy London kicked in.
So it was this beautiful bubble, and I had friends passing that time. So you have this crowd around who sort of walks by, just stopping, and then the sort of friends were, that was kind of magical, seeing she had her kids with her, and they're just watching, and then everyone joining in, and the calypso band was playing. That was extraordinary.
And then all of a sudden, because the snow wasn't really snow that you could
Yeah.
balls, and we wanted them throwing snowballs. Paul had the idea of just putting bits of white paper
Yeah.
that you could throw. So that was spontaneous.
Yeah.
That wasn't actually written.
Yeah.
And so there we were. Definitely taking, because also the light was going down, and we had around 5 minutes to shoot five different shots.
Yes, it was.
10 minutes to shoot 5 different shots.
And so it's really exciting.
With white paper, the bits of paper and a bucket full of water. It was really fun.
It was
It's a very professional production.
Those kind of moments are really, because everyone's there trying to make it work, and everyone's involved, and it doesn't get better than that, really.
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying, one of my favourite moments was we were filming in Costa Rica for The Darkest Peru, and it was really difficult. You know, the jungle is not a friendly place to film, and there was this moment where, because I just looked and there was David wrestling this enormous thorn bush, because we had about 2 seconds before the light went in. Dropped so fast on the equator, and you're just looking around, he's kind of covered in thorns, and because surely there's someone other than David to do this job. The people who are great and covered in scratches, anything to get the shot.
That's what's so good about David. David would be...
Not afraid to get his hands
No,
dirty.
you'd sort of, at the corner you're right, you see David on his hands and knees, scrabbling across the floor to try and holding the stick or getting you're always there doing stuff in part.
It's a mixture of executive and undergardener.
Just making up for all my failings as a producer.
Well, we would love to do one. We need to. I mean, it's been a joy to see how warmly it's been received, where it's been released. And there's a lot of Paddington books, and we sort of set out to make something that could become more movies. And if it finds enough of an audience, I'm sure we'd love to do one. It'll be set in space.
Yeah, done that. Actually, yeah.
Can we do Paddington Goes to Hogwarts? They do really well, those films.
One of the things that we did in the UK, it's one of the great things we've been able to do with Paddington, was we had Nicole and Sally design Paddington bears that we then auctioned off, that were around London for a couple of months, and then have recently been auctioned off, and we've just found out that we made almost £1 million doing that, raising money for this organisation called Childline, which is a sort of child counselling service. But one of the bears was designed by Sandy Bullock, and her bear was Paddington in a gravity space, called Gravity Bay, and was Paddington in a gravity space.
It's meant space.
Yeah, definitely.